and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be wrapping up my April reads. That feels so weird to say. I feel like it literally just started April like a week ago, and now April's done. It is May 1st when I'm filming this, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up all of the books that I read. So I'm going to be honest, April was pretty slumpy. Like, I did my 24-hour reading challenge where I had like a 4-day weekend of like reading a bunch of stuff at the beginning of the month. And I think I finished 3 books since then, maybe 4. We'll see. But it feels like I just was not feeling a lot of the books I picked up toward the end of April. Like, I think we hit the ground running. We had a really great start with my 24-hour reading challenge. And then everything else after that was not what I wanted to be reading, like at all. So yeah, let's get into that. So these are all the books that we finished during my 24-hour reading challenge that I did at the beginning of the month. So my more in-depth thoughts are going to be in that video. But overall, I enjoyed like all of these. Like, I had a really good time with all of them. So I'll go ahead and just like rapid fire let you know my rating on them. For The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, I gave this one 4.5 stars. For Glow, this one is the 4th book in the Plated Prisoner series, and I ended up giving this one 4.75 stars. For Survive the Night by Riley Sager, I gave this one 4.5 stars. Book Lovers by Emily Henry, I ended up giving this one 5 stars. And the last book that I got into during my 24-hour reading challenge was These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan, and I gave this one 4.75 stars. So overall, like, to start off the month, I read all of those in like a single weekend. Like, amazing. Like, just a super awesome, jam-packed, like super great reading like run right there. And then we get into the next book that I picked up, which I think put me into a slump. This next book I ended up picking up while I was traveling, and I think that that even made me less interested in it, if that's at all possible. And that is Steel Princess. This one's by Rena Kent. It is the 2nd book in the Royal Elite series, and I actually read the 1st book in this series like 2.5 years ago now. And like, the overall premise is very interesting to me. It's supposed to be kind of like a bully romance where our FMC has like memory gaps. And so she really doesn't remember her life before high school too well. And so she's trying to like piece together these like weird dreams and memories that she's having. But she also enters in a fake dating relationship with the guy who's been bullying her. And I use that term very loosely because he isn't really bullying her. Like, I read this and like was like, I feel like he just isn't like actively nice to you. Like, he's not doing anything to make her life harder. He's not doing anything to like antagonize her. Like, the girl that he's friends with a girl who is actually a bully to our FMC. And she's like actually kind of the worst person in the whole series. But like, this guy doesn't actually do anything mean to her. And so the whole like 1st book was really just them like doing the fake dating thing, and how like our FMC felt like she was just, like being like dishonest to her friends, and how she's like betraying like what she like values just to like get close to this guy to kind of like try to uncover if he has any connections with these weird dreams that she has that she thinks are memories. And so in the end of the 1st one, we get a pretty big reveal on like how that all is kind of connected. And then in this one, we started off like almost immediately after the 1st book ends, and like the FMC, I'm trying to like phrase this in a way that it's not going to like give away how the 1st book ends, but the FMC decides that she's like done, like being this like toy. She's done, like letting men kind of like decide what happens in her life and how things go for her. So she decides that she's going to like actually do stuff for herself. But then in the actual book, like 95% of the book is just her hanging out with her friends. And like, they have a party, and then it's the next day at school and they're all hanging out together. And then that night they're at a party. And then the next day at school they're hanging out together. And so like, the handful of things that she's able to uncover, like, she does while she's like at home, like waiting for a friend to pick her up for a party. Or like, she gets home from school and her aunt and uncle, who are her guardians, like haven't come home yet. So she starts snooping in their house. And it's like, girl, like, what? Huh? And like, this is not a thick book at all by any means. It's literally like 300 pages almost exactly. 308 pages, and it took me 10 days to read 308 pages. Yeah. The flight to my destination and the flight back, I watched movies. I didn't even read. Because that was how like little interest I actually had in this book. So overall, I gave it a 3.5 stars. the upsetting thing is like as much as I didn't like this book and as much as I really hated that nothing happened in this book, I still want to know what happened in the end. Because at the end of this book, we get another really good reveal. And so the way that this series is kind of set up is I believe there's 6 books, but these first 3 are a trilogy of our current couple. So right now we're following a couple, and book 4 is going to be a different couple in this kind of like friend group. And like at this point, I'm very much looking forward to that because I'm liking all the other characters more than our main 2. Because I'm also not a big fan of the MMC. He's honestly kind of whiny. He's very immature. Like, obviously, they're high schoolers, so I'm not expecting him to be like, like a grown adult man. I'm not expecting him to have like the thought process and rationale of like a 30-year-old. But I'm also just sort of like, this feels very juvenile even for a 17, 18-year-old. Like, he acts like a middle school. Like, fart jokes are appeasing to him. And so it's kind of like, I don't really love these characters. I really want to get into like the later books where we're following other characters because I think that those are the characters I'm more drawn to and the ones that I like more. But also, I want to find out what's happening with this current set because it is very interesting how they're kind of intertwined. And like, I also do kind of love the rich people drama of it all. Like, at the end of the day, this is like the kids of rich people and it is their rich people drama. So I would love to say that the next book that I picked up just immediately fixed how slumpy I was feeling and immediately made everything better and I'm back to being like an avid voracious reader that I have been, but it didn't. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies was not what I thought it was. I knew that this one was historical, so I can't act like I'm surprised that it's historical because I knew it was set in like the 1900s. I knew that our female main character is traveling to this kind of like barren, icy land to try to find like a new faction of fairies. And I knew that it was going to be like an academic rival situation where her academic rival from the college that she teaches at comes on this expedition with her. And they're kind of battling it out to see, like who can find these fairies first. But what I fully did not expect to be like a thing in this book was how like clinical it felt. Like, I can tell that she's writing in her journal. And like, I liked that aspect of it. I really liked that we were getting Emily Wilde's like unfiltered thoughts and like how she would, like reference like previous texts and she would like mention other things that like are known research points in this kind of world and like is what's known about the fairies. So I thought that was super fun and super interesting. But what I really hated was that it felt like we were only seeing like a little bit of the story. Like, she would tell us like part of what had happened and then like the kind of conclusion of it, but we wouldn't get like full details. And a lot of stuff was not happening on page that I was hoping would. And like the relationship in it, I knew was going to be kind of like an afterthought, like a little bit less of a forefront. Like, making the encyclopedia is our number one goal. So I knew that it wasn't going to be romance forward. The romance just didn't make sense. Like, I'm not going to say I wasn't rooting for them because I did see the like banter and the kind of like appeal that they like have for each other. Like, it's very obvious that they like have crushes on each other. It's very obvious that they're like interested and find the other, like very smart. So like that was kind of good and kind of nice. But like it felt like we went from like a childish like amateur crush of like, oh, I like you and think you're cute, so I'm going to throw a rock at you, to like marry me in like 10 pages. And it just like genuinely felt really off to me and it didn't make a ton of sense to me. And they also were like doing this kind of like weird like alliance thing where like he was like, okay, if we figure out like these fairies and like get this kind of like situation handled by this timeline and I can go to this like event that's going on for like scholars that study fairies, like I will take you with me and then you'll look really good too because Emily doesn't get invited to these things because she's a woman. And so like I liked that like element of it, but then we like drop it immediately and like no one follows up on it, no one cares about it. Emily even mentions like Wendell hasn't brought this up in forever, and it's like, okay, well maybe ask him. Like, they're living together, they're literally staying together in the same little like farmhouse thing on someone's land. And then I also was not a huge fan of like all of the side characters having like very difficult to pronounce names. Like, I did the audiobook, I did immersive reading for this one because I wanted to make sure that like I was saying the names correctly. But it felt like every time we were introduced to a new character, a new location, every time we were introduced to anything that was like local to this like land that they're exploring for the fairies, it seemed like it was like the same word. Like they were all like difficult to pronounce, but they were the same sounding words, if that made sense. And it's one of those things where like I understand like wanting to keep it like authentic to like this is kind of like the equivalent of like an unexplored, maybe like indigenous land. I could understand that. But also like it wasn't really like that either. Like this was a very like already established kind of like newer village. So this wasn't even like, like we're going to like Native American territory where they don't have, like electricity or fire or water. Like no, like they had everything like already figured out, and like this was like a relatively modern land that they were in. They had modern conveniences like no problem, and everything just like seemed to be the same word. And like Emily really thoroughly struggled with like understanding the hierarchy of like their kind of like village and how, things worked. And I was with her. I was right there with Emily. I was like, yeah, girl, I don't know why you had to ask that girl permission to do something. I don't know why they're so mad that you said you would get something for yourself. Like, you're just being a strong, independent woman. I feel you. And so, like, overall, I was not like the hugest fan of a lot of aspects of this. I did love the author's writing. And I think I mentioned this before where I'm not a huge, like, writing style person. But when a book is written in like a really good, like descriptive, florally language, I actually do really have a good time with it. So I did have a good time with like how this was actually written, and I think I like this author's style of writing itself. And I liked Emily as a character. I did did genuinely enjoy like her witty banter. She's super smart. I feel like she, like really values like doing the right thing and like being honest and having integrity in what you do and making sure that she is, keeping things better than she found them. I think that that was also another really good point of, like when you're working in research in nature, like you kind of have to be a good steward of the land. And I think Emily really embodies that. Whereas Wendell, he brings a couple of his like student assistants along and they kind of suck too. We don't really get to know them that well at all. They like leave almost immediately. But like I was just not a fan of a lot of the side characters in this. And so I'm not sure if I'll like the next book more, if maybe that one will focus a little bit more on Emily and maybe flush out her and Wendell's relationship. Because those were my two like big qualms, is that there just felt like there was like other things going on that like were not necessary. And then also her and Wendell didn't make sense together at the end. So maybe the next book will be a little bit better. I don't know. We shall see. Still kind of on the fence on if I will pick up book two, but I did end up giving this one 4 stars just because the writing was so good. I felt a little bit bad giving Steel Princess 3.5 stars and then giving this one 3.5 stars when I like this one a little bit more. It made me a little less slumpy. I think it took me a full week to finish Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. So, like, not quite 10 days, but pretty dang close, considering I used to finish like 2 to 3 books in a week. Okay, the next book that I picked up from my April TBR was Dear Debbie. After doing romance and then doing a fantasy and neither of them hitting, I decided let's go ahead and do a mystery thriller. Frida McFadden never disappoints. And I will say this one, she didn't disappoint. I'm giving this one 4.75 stars, making it, I believe, the third or fourth highest rated Frida McFadden book. I feel like Never Lie is always going to be my favorite of hers. I think The Boyfriend is my other 5-star read by her. And so this one is kind of like tied for third place because I have another one of her books. I think it's The Housemaid that I gave a 4.75. Overall, I really enjoyed this. So in this one, we were following Debbie, who writes an advice column, and she's kind of having like the shittiest week known to man. She has 2 teenage daughters, so she's realizing that both of their relationships are kind of crumbling. Her oldest daughter is dating this like piece of shit, like idiot stoner dude. Her other daughter is like quitting the soccer team and not really telling her why. She feels like she's like getting distance from her husband. She's trying to get him to like like ask his boss for a promotion. She gets fired from her job. So Debbie's just like straight up going through it. And we kind of see like how this takes a toll on her and what she does as kind of retaliation for these events that are happening. And overall, I really enjoyed this. I feel like it tied back around like most of Frida McFadden books do, but it tied back around like double. Like there was like a plot twist that I kind of saw coming. I kind of saw coming, but it was a good plot twist because it made sense. it like actually was one of those where it was like, oh yeah, like uh-huh. But then the like second level on it and then tying it back around with something completely different and kind of unrelated, if I'm being completely honest, I did kind of enjoy that like a lot. So overall, gave this one a 4.75. And I feel like this one kind of put us back in business because this one I finished, I believe, over the course of like a weekend. I think I finished on, or I started on a Saturday and I had it finished like Tuesday. So, like, overall, not too bad, not too shabby. I will take it. And I'm glad to have another free to book kind of crossed off my list. And that brings me to my final book to include in this wrap up. Technically, I'm not going to be finishing this one in April. Like, I know I'm not because I'm still actively reading it on May 1st. But I also think I'm going to be getting through it like later today. So I'm just going to go ahead and count it so that way I'm not going to like hold on to it and bring it into May with me. But that is Duskbound. So I picked this one up, I believe, on Wednesday. Yes, I started this one immediately after finishing Dear Debbie. And I feel like I'm just inhaling this. Like, I think at 2.5 times speed, the audiobook is like 7 hours. And I think I have like an hour and a half left. Like, I am just flying through this book. I'm really enjoying it. I'm having such a good time. This is the sequel to Riftborn. And my main critiques of Riftborn were that I did not like our MMC. The love interest was kind of yucky to me. And I also felt like a lot of Riftborn was kind of going off of Fourth Wing. Like, it felt very Fourth Wing inspired in like a bad way where I was like, interesting. And then I also did not love that the only times our side characters were around was when something was happening to them in like a bad way. Like, it felt predictable almost. This one is kind of almost going against all of those. Like, so far, I don't want to spoil anything, but so far we're introduced to a completely new set of characters. We are doing games and trials, which has been very fun. I think that's also part of why I'm liking it just a little bit more, is it feels less War College Fourth Wing and more like games and trials. And I'm having a really good time because who doesn't love games and trials? So overall, I will definitely be finishing this probably later tonight. Hopefully later tonight because I don't really want to bring this beefy honkin' boy on a plane. I'm flying home tomorrow. So that's why I'm trying to get this one wrapped up later today. So hopefully I can finish this one. Right now I'm leaning towards a 4.5 or 4.75. I'm not 100% sure it's going to be a full-blown 5 stars just because the pacing is still a little weird to me. Like, I think about 200-ish pages in, I was like, okay, let's get it going. Because like we'd already established like some really great things to come and none of them had happened yet. Like, I think they mentioned games and trials like 50 pages in and they still hadn't started by page 200. And I was just over here like, okay, could we get somewhere? Like, can we go? That like aside, like the slowness in the beginning, I am really enjoying everything that we've been introduced to so far. I think that it was a really good like twist of the authors to reveal at the very end of Riftborn what they revealed, because I think that it was able to take them in a completely different direction that if they would have either waited for like later in the book series, like it wouldn't have had that much of an effect at all, or if they'd revealed it too soon and if it maybe happened like halfway through Riftborn, I don't think that our attachment to the first part of Riftborn would have been as impactful, if that makes sense. Like, I think if it was done any earlier than the end of Riftborn, we wouldn't care about the beginning of Riftborn. And if it was done in this, like later in this book, I think that we would be like, it wouldn't have been done right if it was done like during this book. I think that the twist happened exactly when the twist needed to happen. And so far, all the things that have been revealed to us and our main character, Fia, because Homegirl Fia has been going through it. Like, I feel a little bit bad for Homegirl sometimes. Like, she's taking the lead champ. But there are some days where I was like, thank God this happened to Fia and not me. Because I could never. I would not. No. But so far, so good. Really liking Dustbound. I'm going to go ahead and count it in this wrap up and act as if I read it in the month of April because it was on the April TBR. So that means the only book that we didn't get to from our April TBR was Caught Up by Liz Tom40. I'm going to try and get this one read like later this month, maybe in May. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling a sports romance next just because, you know, I'm doing like a really heavy fantasy right now. So it might be kind of fun to shake it up with a kind of like sports romance that's not too like hard or heavy, but we shall see. I might try to sneak it in later in the month when I'm needing a little bit of a palate cleanser after the Wolf King and Fated Throne, because those both ended up on our May TBR, and those are both pretty heavy fantasies. So we'll see when I decide to sneak caught up in there. But overall, that is my entire month of April wrapped up. I finished 9 books in the month of April. So considering how we've been reading lately, 9 books is a win. So I will take what I can get. If you make it to the end of the video, go ahead and leave a mushroom emoji like the cover of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. And I will see you guys in the next video real soon. Bye! So these are all the books. And I gave this one a 4 point. Hi, Gorge. Hi, my angel. So I knew, Gorge, she's purring so loud. I really hope the mic picks up some of it, but also doesn't pick up all of it because it's loud. I did see like the kind of like banter and the appeal. You okay? She sneezed. So that means I'm gonna say that without my whole arm out. So it might be kind of fun. I think I got to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No. I think I got to 8 books this month, which honestly, considering how I've been reading, wait, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm pretty sure I finished 9 books in the month of April. If I can count, that'd be super cool.